Hey guys, Condros here. I'm gonna do another song. Earlier today, I did Gershok, um, the day or the night the sky rained nukes. I think is what it was called. Very good song. Actually, I screwed up and didn't give a rating at the end because when I do a reaction, um, uh, I like to do like a rating. Because like when I do a breakdown, those are songs that I love, so those are probably like all tens. So there's really no point in rating those ones. But the Gershok song, I would probably give it like I would say like an 8.8 or somewhere in there, um, just shy of a nine. Um, like I said, the one criticism that I had with it was the was sort of the vocals in the chorus, and I think if it weren't for that, it would have been in the nine range for me, which is like most songs that I break down are usually for me like nines or tens. If I'm breaking down a song. Um, but anyways, this song that we're going to do right now is another reaction from Matt Barlow from Iced Earth, his band Ashes of Aries. Now, Ashes of Aries, they put out an album in, I want to say like 2 years ago. And it was a good album. It was nothing that I would say like was stellar, but it was a very solid metal album with an incredible singer in Matt Barlow on vocals. This time around, I have heard two songs prior to the release of the album, Let All Despair and Alien. Let All Despair is awesome. Really good song. Alien was also a really good song. So I have high hopes for this album. I think this is going to transcend um, the first album by a pretty wide margin because I think one of the things with the first album was is that it didn't really take a lot of risks or do anything outside of a very narrow box. Which I understand that wanting to stick to sort of basics, especially for a first album. So it's good to hear that this album seems like, even from the two I've heard, that they're taking more risks, doing different stuff, and but while still playing to Matt's strengths, and I think the strength of the band in general, and there's a lot of similarities, of course, obviously between the band and their sound and Iced Earth, but Iced Earth I feel like is more. Um, I don't know. It's difficult to describe exactly the main difference between them, but I've always felt that Iced Earth was, in many ways, almost like if you took Iron Maiden and just like increased the heaviness, and instead of everything being driven by Steve Harris's bass lines, it was driven by the guitar riffs. But the guitar riffs are played in such a way as they're similar to the bass lines from Iron Maiden. So it's unique. Schaefer's rhythmic style is what makes Iced Earth Iced Earth. So it's very difficult for another band to try and do that. And at some point here, I'm going to do a reaction probably in the near future to a band that I knew very well when I was growing up. And a band is Winter Sun, or not Winter Sun. Um, the band is Winterfell. Sorry. So Winterfell, I knew the lead singer from Winterfell, and they had a tough go, man, because it was before the internet was really available to make to elevate bands beyond what their financial capabilities were, right? So I mean, Winterfell was just a bunch of guys who really wanted to tap into that Iced Earth sound, and if you listen to Rob's singing in that song in their songs in Winterfell songs, he sings like Matt Barlow, and I heard a really great breakdown on YouTube where it talked about Matt Barlow's vocal style and how different it is from nearly every other metal singer. And the big thing that he mentioned, and I, of course, not being a singer or an expert in vocals, never picked up on this, but what Matt's doing is he sings very far back in his throat. Like your typical metal singer is usually very forward, right? So like, and that's why when you listen to like Judas Priest or whatever, everything is very up front, and Matt is very far back, and so as a result, his voice has that almost baritone like quality, and he has a lot more natural resonance to his voice, I feel like. So it's one of the things that really makes him unique, but he also has the ability to sing very high as well. So and that's what's really special about Matt as a singer, because he has a very huge range, and you don't really hear a ton of it in a lot of his songs, but there are some songs where it's more prevalent. And when I was trying to choose a song for Ashes of Aries, I wanted a song that would showcase a little bit more of his range. And people mentioned Sundragon as having some of the higher stuff and also being a thrashier tune, which of course, obviously, you guys know I like. So what I chose is the Sundragon. Obviously, this one's just going to be no video. I don't know for certain, but I would imagine using an official video from them would get blocked. So, but I don't know. It's hard to say. So, but there's only 2 official videos right now, Alien and Let All Despair. So if I was going to do one, it probably would be Let All Despair, because that song is really, really freaking good. So, but the Sundragon is an interesting one. So we'll see what happens with that one. I have no idea what the song is about. So let's jump into that. All right, here we go.
Like a ship rolling in
All right. Okay. With this one, I would say out of the three songs that I've heard, this is the heaviest one, but I would also say it's probably the weakest one. Um, it's a good song. It didn't really grab me too much. There was a couple riffs I really liked, but I also felt that on the whole, a lot of the riffs hung around a little too long, and it started to feel slightly repetitive in some spots, um, which is a criticism I have of a lot of Iced Earth songs too. And I mean I love Iced Earth, but they're by no means perfect. They have a lot of songs that do tend to wear out their welcome in terms of the riff, right? And I think particularly sometimes Schaefer will do a riff, and he'll be like, "Oh, this riff is so good," and then just it goes on for too long. Um, but this one, I think before, for the most part, before that really happened, I think the change up usually would occur. So the part where I really noticed it the most was during the verse, um, because the verse and the bridge, the riff was pretty much the same, and then of course it changes for the chorus. But that's that the verse and bridge make up a pretty sizable chunk of music. So that riff is goes on for a while. Um, it's a good riff though. That's the thing. And this was always the issue with Iced Earth, right? Is he would write a really fantastic riff. It's just that it would get a little bit overused, right? Um, and I really liked the structure of this particular riff, and it's not like a super easy riff either. Um, I just thought it was like very solid. Um, Vocally speaking, we had some a very interesting performance from Matt. I felt where the song opened up with some really high notes from him, and then the verse was kind of Matt in his standard voice, um, but occasionally slipping into that. In the video where I was talking about earlier, where they mentioned about his singing style, they talked about Matt's use of his rasp, like, but like it's not, but like it's vocal, it's what they call vocal fry, which I mean is a term even I know, um, which vocal fry is kind of like what my voice sounds like right now, getting over this laryngitis, where you have a lot of just gravel in your tone. Um, so combining his back voice, like that voice that sits further back, with just a little bit of vocal fry, gives it this like throaty kind of rasp that's really cool. And another singer who did this a lot is Daniel Gilnow from Pain of Salvation. Will occasionally use this back sitting vocal fry technique, where you get that like really throaty, like gritty kind of vocal that sounds really cool, but also has a very dark coloration to it because of how far back it is, right? So I thought all throughout the song Matt was great, and then I loved after the solo there was like some really great aggressive vocals from Matt on that particular. It was not really a bridge; it was just sort of its own unique section. But that was really cool. There was some great riff transitions before going into the solo, and after the solo, there was a great riff transition. And you can kind of, when you watch the video, you like and watch the reaction, you'll see my face at various points, sort of giving you an idea of what parts, what riffs I really enjoyed. Um, but it was a very, but like, I'll look up the lyrics here in a second. The song did not jump out into me quite the way that, say, Let All Despair did. So I would say, I'll look at the lyrics first before I give a score, but just from a musical standpoint, I'd probably give it like an 8. Let's bring up the lyrics. How was that? All right, there we go. There we go. Well, there may not be any lyrics up for this right now. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's lyrics available for this song yet. Yeah. Well, don't really know what the song was about. I assumed I'd be able to find lyrics, so I actually didn't think about paying too much attention to the lyrics. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it was about. Um, but I would just say that, like, overall, so far I'm still pretty high on this album. This was still a very good song. Um, and I think there's better on this album. So, um, like the thrashy riff, um, like some of the transitions out of the more standard riffs in the song, like an outside the solo. The solo was good, and Barlow's vocals were great. So, we'll go with an 8.5. Um, solid heavy metal tune. So, yeah, that was Ashes of Aries, the Sun Dragon. The album is called Well of Souls. If you're a fan of Matt Barlow, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Um, Matt has not done a ton outside of Iced Earth. He did one album with Pyramaze, and I can't remember which one it was. And then he did the 2 Ashes of Aries albums. So he's been fairly low output. Now, those of you who are familiar with the story will know that Matt left Iced Earth. He wasn't fired. He quit Iced Earth after Horror Show, right before Glorious Burden came out, because of 9/11. So when 9/11 happened, he said, I think in an interview, something to the effect of that he felt he needed to be doing more for the community than just doing music, which, yeah, I think you can make the argument that doing music does a lot for your community, but I understand what he's saying, though. And would never really begrudge him of that, desire to, go for something that is more overtly community oriented, like being a police officer. At the end of the day, a police officer, the motto of the police is to protect and serve. So, I definitely get it, but he's not done a ton since he left. Ashes of Aries and the Pyramaze thing was sort of, I think, right around the time he left, but he might have actually been starting to do that before he left. But yeah, the Pyramaze record is great. If you're a fan of his massive vocal range, definitely check that Pyramaze album out. And man, I feel terrible that I don't remember which one it was that where he stepped in. Actually, I can find out right now because I think it's an important one to look at. Let's see. Yeah. I want to say that it was Legend. It was either Legend of the Bone Carver or Immortal. Yeah, it was Immortal. I don't think that, and for me, being a fan of, being a big fan of Dragonlance, and you know D&D in general, there's a lot of songs on. There's particularly one that's a direct reference to Dragonlance in on that album Immortal called Caramon's Poem. So, but that whole album is just really good, and I think if you're into yeah, Lance King was the original vocalist. If you're into Matt's vocals, check out Immortal, because I think you'll be pretty pleasantly surprised at how good it is. So yeah, that was this new song from Ashes of Aries. The again, if you like what you heard, check out the new album. It just came out like literally, I believe, a week ago. So definitely give it a spin. Pretty good material from what I've heard. I definitely think we'll be doing more from them. If I can find out whether or not their videos will get blocked, I might do Let All Despair, because it's a really good song. So, anyways, that's it for me. This is a relatively short video, but you know, we'll maybe I'll be able to do another song this week. I have a couple of things in mind, but just wanted to get something else out there. So, and most likely won't be another video before Thanksgiving. So I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. Spend some time with your family, and stay metal. Calendros out.